Hi, everyone. So, my name is Matt, and today I'm going to be talking about chartered legal executives in England and Wales. Through our class discussions and other presentations, we have learned about the important goal of expanding access to legal services. In addition to that, this presentation will look at another view, which is expanding access to the legal profession to more practitioners. As we all know firsthand, the process of becoming a lawyer is time consuming and expensive. This can limit the demographic of people who have the ability to pursue law as a career. If we can remove the barriers to entry without lowering the standards, we may be able to provide affordable and accessible services to more people. In short, a chartered legal executive is a lawyer who has completed all the elements on the route to qualification at the Chartered Institute of Legal Executives, or CILEX. This is a professional and not an academic qualification. It would be similar to what we in Alberta would refer to as being admitted to the bar and enrolling as a member of the Law Society. As I will discuss, what makes chartered legal executives unique is their scope of practice and the qualification process. To fully understand what chartered legal executives are and their role in the legal market, we need to understand the basics of the legal market in England and Wales. The two most well known roles are solicitors and barristers. Solicitors provide legal services to clients across a variety of areas, including commercial law, family, and civil litigation. However, they generally do not represent a case in court. This is when the solicitor will hire a barrister who is a specialist in court advocacy and will plead the case. Solicitors can do some representation in court, but only when they are granted a right of audience. So these two roles have slightly different paths to qualification, but what is common to both of them is that they generally require a degree, followed by professional training and an assessment process, and working experience to become fully qualified. This is generally going to happen in this exact sequence. It will take at least 6 years and cost between 30 and 60,000 pounds. Once qualified as a solicitor, you can practice in any area of law, but similar to Canada, solicitors will most frequently specialize in a specific area and practice exclusively in that. So this brings us to chartered legal executives. The roots of chartered legal executives date back to 1892 and have evolved a lot over time. In 2007, there was significant reform to the legal market through the Legal Services Act, and in response, Silex Regulation was formed as an independent regulator. In 2012, the Institute received Royal Charter status, becoming the Chartered Institute of Legal Executives. And then in 2013, the regulator was designated as an approved regulator for reserved legal activities, which gave rise to the practice rights that chartered legal executives have today. The stated purpose of Silex is to develop, support, and inspire a highly skilled body of legal professionals and make the UK legal sector more efficient, more representative, and better able to serve society. Their vision is to create more accessible opportunities in the legal profession by providing a range of flexible routes to qualification and ultimately building a more inclusive legal sector that delivers better service. Today, we have Silex, the membership body, and Silex Regulation, the independent regulator. Before I explain further, just a quick note that there are other practitioners regulated by Silex, such as paralegals, but I'm primarily focusing on chartered legal executives for this presentation. So, how does someone become a chartered legal executive? Well, there are two different paths that a person with no legal qualifications can take. First, they can complete the Silex qualification and the qualifying experience, or they can do an apprenticeship. I will start by focusing on this path on the right. As you can see, the major components are a Silex regulation approved qualification, 2,300 hours of qualifying experience, and a competence based assessment through work based learning. And this accumulates in having chartered legal executive status with a specialization. The qualifying experience is work that contributes to the provision of legal service and can include things like taking instructions from clients, drafting documents, doing research, representing clients, but generally will not include administrative style work. Applicants will be required to provide examples of this work in a portfolio that will be assessed to determine if they have met the relevant competencies for their area of specialization. One of the best parts about this process is that it does not need to be completed sequentially and instead can be completed concurrently. So here we do see the stages of qualifying, which do have to happen sequentially. And as you can see on the chart, if you already have some legal qualifications like a law degree, you can start further into this process. Through each of these stages, the student will be enrolled in modules, they will be assessed on their skills, and they will be able to build professional experience at the same time. Through the modules, they cover all the key foundational areas of law, such as contracts, torts, and property. Once they move on to the advanced stage, they begin to choose a specialization, and in the professional stage, they focus almost exclusively on this area. At each stage, however, there is a module focused on professional and legal skill development. If you did want to do litigation, there is an additional advocacy skills course that must be completed as well. One of the most interesting parts about this process is that students can pause or stop after any of the stages. If you stop after the foundation stage and you have the requisite experience, you can register as a Silex paralegal. And if you stop after the advanced stage, you can register as a Silex advanced paralegal. The entirety of the process is estimated to cost between £13,000 and £15,000. There's also the apprenticeship option. It has similar requirements, but the process is more integrated as the employer is part of it, which eliminates the need to prove the qualifying experience. This whole process commonly takes between 36 and 48 months, and through the entirety of it, the apprentice is earning a wage and they're having their training paid for by the employer. I do want to note that solicitors can also do apprenticeships, so it's not unique to this, but it is a good option. So here we see the different pathways that a chartered legal executive can take. Each of these pathways has their own specific competency requirements and will ultimately authorize the legal executive to perform specific legal activities. So as an example, I have included the requirements to be licensed under the immigration pathway. And as we can see, there are some general requirements to demonstrate competencies in key legal skills, but there are also specific requirements for the specific practice area they'll be licensed to practice in. As a consumer, I think it would be reassuring to know that my lawyer has been assessed based on specific services that they'll be providing me with. We wouldn't want to go to a surgeon who has not been examined on their specific area of expertise. So why wouldn't we apply a similar logic to lawyers? Once fully qualified, a chartered legal executive is able to provide legal services at the same level as a solicitor in their specific area of practice. Different practice areas also provide for different scopes of practice and highlight the specific activities a licensed practitioner will be able to perform. Here we once again have immigration as an example. An immigration legal executive will be able to perform activities like claiming for asylum and appealing such decisions. I also want to highlight the scope of practice in the context of litigation. So, similar to solicitors, legal executives can only advocate in court to the extent they are granted a right of audience. And as you can see here, the right of audience certificate for family lawyers will dictate what activities they're able to participate in. So, where do we find chartered legal executives employed? Well, they're employed by a variety of different employers. Here we can see an example of an associate at an international law firm that many of us would recognize, Gowling. They can also be found working for the government and for big corporations like BBC. The person at BBC is actually the head of business and legal affairs brand protection, so a pretty high up role. I did see other practitioners that had senior positions at other major global law firms as well. Additionally, chartered legal executives are able to open their own law firms if they meet the requirements set out by Silex regulation and are an authorized legal entity by them. They can also become judges and equity partners at major firms. So, how does a chartered legal executive qualification compare to what we have in Alberta at the moment? Well, personally, I think it offers a lot of options that are very appealing compared to the Alberta system. Here, we're looking at a minimum of 3 years of undergrad, 3 years of law school, and as of now, each year of law school tuition in Calgary is set at about $18,000, which is pretty cheap on the national scale. Throughout law school, we are constantly reminded that we are learning stuff that is not likely to be relevant in practice, and that the real learning will begin when we start. We then spend a year of articling, and many of us are looking at a total of 10 plus years to reach that point, and likely significant debt. The chartered legal executive option offers significant flexibility in that timeline. It promotes gaining professional experience throughout, and it allows lawyers to specialize and start building skills in their area from the beginning. One potential con is that it may be more difficult to switch areas. Lawyers without significant debt are more free to explore the different alternative career options we've discussed in this course and may be able to provide services to parts of society that are frequently unable to afford the high cost of legal services that are currently available.